Welcome to another edition of Anglican Unscripted. This is episode 935. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
I'm George Conger. Today is October 7th, 2025.
All right, welcome to another episode of Anglican Unscripted. We're so glad you could be here. This is, as I've said many times, our happy spot. This is where George and Kevin can just sit down in front of our webcams and talk about the news, talking about what's going on in the world, and try to offer each other perspective, and at the same time offer you guys some perspective as well. Before we get too far into the show, like right now, but just right now, click the like button. I know, but I don't know. Yeah, you do. You know. Click that like button. It helps feed us to other Anglicans around the world, and I'm going to explain in a minute how that works. If you're not subscribed to the show, please subscribe. We appreciate that. It helps also your notification. You'll be instantly notified anytime we put up a new video, and we've done this 935 times. Don't look forward to stopping anytime soon. If you've not shared this episode with family, friends, or foe, please do so. Copy that hyperlink at the top of your browser and share away. And go to the comment section. George, let me just look at how many comments we had on our last episode. 339 comments on the last episode, George. A lot of topic around the Bishop Jones affair and the new Archbishop of Canterbury. That's just crazy. So we appreciate that. We glad you're here to watch the program. George, as of this morning, we had 17,000 views on Anglican Unscripted episode 934. Wow.
Yeah, it's, and we didn't even mention Calvin Robinson.
No, not in the title, not anywhere.
So, maybe we found another thing. Maybe we have to put Justin Bieber, Calvin Robinson, Taylor Swift, and now Sarah Mullally in our hyperlinks to get people to watch. My goodness.
So how do 17,000 people find Anglican Unscripted? Well, this is every week I encourage you guys to click the like button and share. The YouTube algorithm will always measure viewership versus subscribers. If more and more subscribers are watching a certain episode, it will start automatically feeding that to other people's feeds. And so what happened here is in perfect, succinct, viral fashion, we posted a video about the new Archbishop of Canterbury hours after it was announced. And YouTube used that and kept feeding it viral. Our George and Kevin, 17,000 times more poignant and ready to cover this than before. No, it's just, this is what viral means. And boom, people started watching it and sharing it, and an algorithm at YouTube kept feeding it all since Friday. To the point where over the weekend we had 10,000, 11,000. I'm like, this is crazy. So that's what a viral video is. We're not any more special than we were before. Boom. My first viral video. This would be probably the number one watched video over time of any Anglican Unscripted, unless we can find something else fun to talk about. But we have 4 or 5 topics today. Should be fun.
Well, remember the good old days when the Drudge Report was a thing?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
About 15, might have been much longer than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
Long time ago. Mm-hmm. We had an article that appeared the week after Christmas where Al Gore did some sort of project, green funding project. And we wrote a story about that because the Church of England was going to put millions into Al Gore's fund. Mm-hmm. And we had, nearly 1 million views.
It was great. It was crazy.
On a story that I would consider like level 5 of importance. But that's Al Gore is the most watched story, his funding and the Church of England all those years ago. So it's funny how these things operate.
You never know. What was Judge thinking that day? In my mind, in your mind, it's a no story. It's a fluff story. And a fluff story by a hypocritical vice president. Just it went viral. So we want to thank you for that. We want to thank you for your help in this. If you guys can, we don't mention this often, but if you guys could send some donations in. Last month I got $20 in donations, and it's because I'm not being upfront and asking enough. My income has changed in retirement, and it would be really nice if according to Jill, if I would stop paying for Anglican TV as it is now. So it is what it is. Thanks, guys. We really appreciate it. Let's move on to the news. The first story is certainly going to be the follow-up and reaction to new Archbishop of Canterbury, Sarah Mullally, from the Diocese of London. Now, I want to take a quick look back, because to me, this is a great story for what's happening over in the Church of England, but it's also a repeat story in my mind. This is Catherine Jefferts Schori 2.0. This is a person who was appointed, who, if you look at the background, no parish experience, safeguarding issues, very questionable theological training and education. Oh, and she hates Orthodox people like Calvin Robinson. I'm seeing a repeat of something that happened here in America more than a dozen years ago, George.
Yeah. This is an interesting replay. Mm-hmm. Some major differences, though. Okay. The left, looking at the reactions within the Church of England and in the English secular world, Sarah Mullally is being damned with faint praise. Mm-hmm. Because people are celebrating the appointment of the first woman Archbishop of Canterbury. And that her fact that her being a woman is so far out ahead of everything else of her virtues that it's almost as if she is a placeholder. In other words, this is how you treat a DEI appointment. Somebody who doesn't really deserve the job, but gets the job because of a characteristic other than merit. Mm-hmm. And the left is over. They're happy, but very few people are dancing in the streets about this. There's some communities, the survivors community, meaning those who are involved, survivors of clergy abuse in the Church of England. They're not too happy at all. Now, Kathy Newman from Channel 4 News in the Church of England, she's very liberal. Some may remember her famous interview of Jordan Peterson, where her full lion-like powers were on display. She essentially brought down Justin Welby over his role in the Smythe affair. She is digging into Mullally's safeguarding failures. We mentioned one, Alan Griffin, for the Diocese of London, a priest who committed suicide last show. And people tell me that there are other stories that are just waiting to come out of London safeguarding fiascos where the oversight can be laid at the feet of Sarah Mullally. So Kathy Newman's working on that. And there's not a great hue and cry to say, oh, we have to protect Sarah Mullally and we have to spike this from the women's community. Rather, great, we have a woman. Well, if we lose this one, we can always have another woman. I hate to put it that way.
No. There's plenty of backups. Yeah.
So the liberals are happy that she's a woman, but there's nobody really screaming, yay, this is the perfect person. The abuse people are going, uh-oh, this woman has blood on her hands. Now, the conservatives in the Church of England, let's start with the flying bishops, evangelical and Anglo-Catholic, they've both put out what I would call wary statements. They're not breaking ranks and running away and saying how awful this is. They're basically telling her in advance, isn't it wonderful that you're going to maintain the status quo and not try to kill us? So they're being very wary. Mm-hmm. The society put out a group letter that was pretty wishy-washy. Individual bishops, Richborough, for one, Westry, another, put out stronger letters. But we're seeing a repeat of traditional tribalism in the Church of England. Little groups say, okay, if I can carve out a little safe spot for me, the hell to the rest of you. So long as she leaves the Anglo-Catholics alone, that's fine. The evangelicals under the Bishop of Ebbsfleet, Rob Monroe, they don't have their act together as well. Monroe is basically saying, well, we can find a way to work for her, even though we cannot theologically recognize her as her headship over the issue of her being a woman. But I should say that that's really secondary. sort of confusing things here, but what's the problem? Is that she's a woman, or is it that she's pro-gay, pro-woke, pro-trans, pro-migrant, pro-institution? She is the perfect archbishop for Keir Starmer, England. She
is a repeat of the last year of Justin Welby. He started off strong. He was on the right side of so many issues. He finished miserably. Now this misery of what he believed is being taken on as the mantle of Sarah. She's like, everything he believed that got him kicked out of office and all the horrible safeguarding issues. That's me. I'm here. Let's continue on.
Well, her background, she was the youngest chief nurse of the National Health Service in the Church of England. And within the church world, people will say, who are evangelical, who know her personally, say she's a very pleasant, very nice person. Mm-hmm. And that behind the scenes, she's a very good administrator. And so people say it's not a surprise that she's risen to the top administratively in two different professions where behind the scenes works are important. Problem is that she's only had about 10 years church experience. And I misstated her education. She did not go to St. Mellitus. She went to a local ministry training program in Southeast London for her training.
Think community college.
Then and then it was not a residential program. Mm-hmm. And then she had 2 curacies and then a very brief time as a rector of a church before she was made Bishop of Crediton, which is in the west of England. And then 3 years later, she became Bishop of London with Justin Welby basically pushing her, so the story goes. And the reason why was because she was an administrator. London is a particularly fractious diocese, very strong conservative element, very strong liberal element. And the Church of England basically wanted somebody who could hold this thing together while not favoring one side or the other. And their choice was Mullally. So this is not somebody. Lee Gaddis was on a video, the Pastor's Heart out of Australia.
Yep.
A great video, mm-hmm. We encourage you to see that program.
Great ministry. Yeah.
And basically, Lee Gaddis says, the problem with Sarah Mullally is not that she's a woman, but that she doesn't believe. She is not a faithful teacher of the gospel. She will not stand against false teaching and heterodoxy. Well, the Church of England is in place right now, but that's not a bishop's job. A bishop's job is to be a manager. Mm-hmm. They're not to be fathers or mothers in God, if you will. They're not to be theologians. They're not to be deep thinkers. Rather, they're to be corporate executives who hold together a state institution. Think it's like she's like the president of Amtrak in the United States, a government-owned company.
Sure.
Sort of private sector, sort of not.
Now, if you want to bring that in context and contrast with Justin Welby was given the job and nominated because he would be the great uniter of the Anglican Communion. That was his expectation. Listen, Rowan tried hard. Things are a little fractured here. The Episcopal churches won't play ball. Don't even ask us about Canada. But lo and behold, Justin Welby, we're going to bring you up, and you will be the great uniter. And you'll be great as the great uniter of the Anglican Communion. You'll do a great job here in the Church of England. Nobody's expecting that of Sarah. Miss Mullally, the bishop, is only expected in print, from what I've read, to work locally with the Church of England.
Yeah, and there are very low expectations. Mm-hmm. There's some rather ill-informed newspaper articles and headlines, and you can sort of say, that the focus of most secular newspapers are woman breaks glass ceiling in the Church of England. That's really not an issue. Well, it's of importance to some people.
Yeah.
But it is not the issue where people are getting all bent out of shape. It's the fact that she does not hold to the Christian faith in the views of evangelicals and Anglo-Catholics.
Yeah.
She is not a Christian as they are Christians. Mm-hmm. And they're saying, oh, well, this could be schism in the Anglican Communion. Friends, this has happened long ago. Sarah Mullally didn't kill the Anglican Communion. Justin Welby did that. Sarah Mullally now had...
With Rowan's help.
Well, Rowan's help. Sarah Mullally, her appointment is a realization, recognition by the Church of England establishment that their days as leading the church is over. If there was any desire for the Church of England to be a transnational leader, they would not have picked a person whom the majority of the communion would reject out of hand.
Well, there's a lot of truth to that, George, because the Crown Nomination Committee has done something backhanded here. They have given Sarah Mullally the Church of England's job as the Archbishop, which is great. But in the same way, they've completely raised up GAFCON and the Global South to be the de facto leadership now of the Anglican Communion. Without, whether they knew it or not, appointing Sarah with limited resources and limited theology and very limited in background other than a great administrator for the nursing, all of a sudden, GAFCON and Global South, you're the leadership. You may not have been looking for it this week, but boom, you're it. That's it.
Yeah. And if we look a little deeper into the process,
I'm sorry.
The
clown.
Part of no conservative could have been elected or appointed because they had to agree to the LLF process. They had to agree to be already on board the train rather than fighting, the direction things are going. And second, the Church of England did a little bit of window dressing by saying, we have overseas representatives for the first time on this. Well, they had two of the overseas representatives, one's from Wales and one's from New Zealand, two dying liberal churches. Nobody from Nigeria, for instance, or Uganda. I mean, the places, where the majority of Anglicans were actively worshiping. Just little overseas clones of the mindset of the liberal establishment in London. But you're right, Kevin. It's now the overseas reaction is very different. Immediately after this announcement, GAFCON and the Global South Fellowship of Anglicans put out statements rejecting her appointment quite clearly, saying that they do not recognize her as the first among equals in the Anglican Communion. She's the primate of all England, good for her, but she has no spiritual authority, moral authority, ecclesial authority, any sort of standing over them. She's just one among many. She holds the position in their minds that Catherine Jefferts Schori did as the leader of a particular national church that has gone astray. So so this was followed by individual statements from Nigeria, Uganda, Sydney, South Sudan, and other places being quite clear. Now, we have statements from Canada, Scotland, the United States, other places that liberal churches saying, isn't this wonderful? But again, they're not sounding out Sarah Mullally's virtues. They're basically praising the idea that a woman is doing this. So that, again, if I were Sarah Mullally, that's not really that great. But what she has, what the Crown Nomination Committee has done, which is wonderful, is it's united GAFCON and the Global South into one purpose. Because the most significant statement in my mind is that of Southeast Asia. Titus Chung, the Archbishop, Bishop in Singapore, he and Singapore and Nigeria didn't get along for a long time. Clash of cultures, clash of personalities. Chinese are in Singapore are more slow to make noise and whatnot. Nigerians will paint the stereotypes here. They're quicker to speak and act. Well, they're now on the same page for the first time in a very long time. And that's done by the external pressure of this Church of England appointment.
But so there could be something good about her appointment as the Archbishop of Canterbury, just as there was something good about having Catherine Jefferts Schori at a certain time in the history of the Episcopal Church, where it got the attention of the entire world and said, wait, what's going on here? And then all of a sudden we have 770 clergy deposed by her. It was a wake-up call. Will this also be a wake-up call for the Church of England with the full knowledge of the Anglican Communion that what's going on here? So
I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm for the Anglican Communion. I'm very optimistic.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure.
You just go to the Ridgecrest, the New Wineskins Mission Conference, and just hear how the gospel is alive in places from Cuba to East Timor to South Sudan, and places like, the faith in Jesus Christ in its Anglican expression is doing very well, thank you. England's in a bad way. The country itself is in a bad way. We don't need to rehearse all the thing. One of the things I thought was fascinating was Tommy Robinson, who's the English
activist.
He's a controversial figure. He's an activist. Yeah. There's some people you just say his name out loud and they start to foam at the mouth. And their views, they don't know anything about Robinson other than what they've read in The Guardian and seen on the BBC. And so for all these years of propaganda, they have basically their opinions have been set for them. Well, that's how the media works. Yeah. Robinson stepping in and basically saying something which, even if you hate Tommy Robinson for his politics, what he said was that the Christians in England need somebody with vigor and power, manliness, if you will.
Sure.
They need a warrior for the faith. And this is no Joan of Arc.
No.
This is the nanny state to the nth degree. This is not someone who will stand and Robinson's ideal is, say, like the Polish Catholic parish priest in the communist era being beaten up by communist thugs, but still standing up for his people. This is not the vision the Church of England is giving to the world through the appointment of Sarah Mullally. Here's the church division of the British government stepping in line with the agenda of Keir Starmer and the Labour Party.
Yeah, and that's just it. This is the Labour Party's version of the Archbishop of Canterbury. Who can we find that's totally in the system? Who can we be promoted to continue the system and will not complain about what's going on in England? Right now, immigration is run amok, not a word from the church. So,
actually, there have been words. The words are of criticism against the Unite the Kingdom rally. Drew protests from establishment leaders saying, how dare these people claim to be Christians when we're the professional Christians? How dare they use Christian symbols when we're the real Christians? Why don't these, smelly, grotty, working class, middle class people just go back to their homes and let us London elites run the country the way we think it should be run?
Crazy.
It's telling that she's 63. She'll be 64 soon. So she has 6 years of service. So she's an interim figure in that sense.
Yeah, is she like a placeholder? Are they already looking to the future now? Who's going to be the next archbishop?
I think they're looking to get through the next few years.
Yeah.
But it really is... I don't know if the Church of England as it stands can be resurrected or saved. I just don't know. I mean, we've got the difficult situation of there is no Churchill rising to rally the people to take an unpopular decision to do what is right, as say Churchill did in 1940, instead of just signing a peace deal with Hitler and letting the world go to hell. Churchill fought on, even though he knew it would be disastrous for the British Empire in the long run. There is no one in the Church of England's conservative uh, consolation, who is stepping forward. So you have conservative leaders like Vaughan Roberts saying, well, she's no worse than Justin Welby. Then you have Lee Gaddis saying, this is someone who is really dreadful. You have the Anglo-Catholics saying, so long as our little corner of the world is protected, we can turn our backs and just go on as we're doing. And then conservative evangelicals saying, oh, what are we going to do? Let's just focus on getting the Sunday school right.
That's right.
There's no leader has arisen who can fight the good fight. That was the miracle of Bob Duncan, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. Still.
At the of all those years ago, Bob Duncan was willing to fight the good fight and take the consequences. Because he probably have in the Episcopal Church of factionalism and this group not talking to that group are the same they have in the Church of England. Plus, we have the added fact of geography of, I'm 1,000 miles away from Anglo-Catholics in the Midwest or in Fort Worth or things like that, or evangelicals up north in the South. But
now, one of the stories, I mean, and clearly the Church of England needs somebody of Bob Duncan's caliber, but it's just not happening yet. I know there's certainly alternatives offered by GAFCON and others, but we shall see what happens. Hopefully, having a common enemy will raise them up like they did here in America.
Well, just if I were English, I'd be very depressed right now, because those public figures we have of unity, of Englishness, of strength, vigor, ranging from the king, from the crown, to the church, to the government, to the police, to the universities, to the BBC, to the National Health Service, all seem hell-bent in destroying
Christianity,
the country.
absolutely, yeah.
The country, Christianity, Englishness. So that there's not going to be one, it's not going to be like follow the Ceausescu's. One day they're in power, the next day they're up against the wall and shot. Not going to be that. It's just the slow decline until we realize, well, when did it end?
Yeah. But we got to watch it. We're watching the end of England in real time because of YouTube and other things. And, just last week, somebody was arrested for holding a sign that says, I oppose jihad.
And then we get people commenting on Anglican Unscripted's comment page. Thank you for commenting.
How we like
it. That we know nothing about what's going on. Everything's wonderful. It's all peace, love, happiness, daisies, and roses. And it's just these troublemakers on the conservative side who are just upsetting these nice Palestinian protesters.
Incredible. Hey, good news, George. More people watched George and Kevin talk about the Archbishop of Canterbury's appointment last week than they watched her announcement as well. She got how many views? What is that? She got 12, George. Oh, wow.
12,000. Oh, my.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Biggest news in the Church of England in decades, but that's what it is. Let's move on and talk about some more local news here. Let's talk more about the Bishop Derek Jones affair with the jurisdiction. You posted a letter that was leaked or forwarded to us in some manner, a letter from Archbishop Babanda, and I thought that would be something interesting to talk about because there was no reference to this letter that was published September 19th in any conversations that I saw from the jurisdiction.
You can see the text of the letter before you, dated the 19th, where Archbishop Babanda, the chairman of GAFCON, Archbishop of Rwanda, writes to the GAFCON primates, basically warning them about the Derek Jones controversy in the United States. Basically, hands off, take care, and passing on a message from Bishop Wood, Archbishop Wood, that you do not enter into communication with Bishop Jones regarding the investigation or the status of the chaplaincy. So a few days later, Jones has his all-hands video conference for the chaplains where he tells them that folks were headed to Nigeria.
Oko's on board.
Yeah. Oko's on board. Well, Oko's not the archbishop, and Dakaba is the archbishop. Mistake of tongue. I do that all the time.
That's us.
So I don't think that's any big deal.
No.
But rather, the door had already been slammed in his face by GAFCON. Mm-hmm. And Oko was very friendly, I think, to Jones, if I recall correctly, and Dakaba not as much so. Different men, different priorities. Sure. Mm-hmm. So what does this mean? Well, we've been contacted by the lawyers for Bishop Jones, New York City law firm. Mm-hmm. And so we've sent our questions to them. And we've sent detailed questions about allegations that we have been heard. We sent them this letter saying, how do we square the claim that you're moving to Nigeria with GAFCON's statement that, hey, fellas, hands off this. This is an internal affair. Don't screw around. And the lawyers have not responded to any of our questions with answers, only they suggested I don't do live interviews on Anglican Inc. because it's a print medium, so I can't do anything. Mm-hmm. But so where do we stand right now? The Jones is no longer the bishop of the armed forces in ACNA. J. Kayang, I need to learn how to pronounce his last name is. The military.
Jerome, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, the new bishop, the military, and I'm sure the lawyers will want to argue over this point, but in general principles, roundly speaking, a entity like the jurisdiction is an endorser on behalf of a church. It is not the church.
Right.
So if the endorser is no longer tied to the church, then they're no longer an endorser in the eyes of the military.
Right.
So either Bishop Jones has to find a new church, or try to somehow say that we are a church, which they're not. They're not a church. They're a jurisdiction or a sub-jurisdiction or whatever it is. So Jones is out of the ACNA. Shortly there'll be Jones's status with the military will be cleaned up. And meanwhile, we're awaiting a presentment to come down out of the College of Bishops, basically bringing Jones up on various charges. I don't know what those charges will be in detail. We've heard plenty of things, and Jones's defenders have pushed back against them. But essentially, in my opinion, Jones is effectively done as a chaplaincy endorser, and we're just now waiting for the paperwork and the legal canonical things to catch up with each other.
Yeah, I don't know if this went the way that everybody was expecting. It's strange. I was forwarded a video that I actually took many years ago, about 11 years ago, when we were up in Pennsylvania, right after Foley was elected to be the new primate of the ACNA. Somebody invited me to tape the jurisdictional enthronement service for the Anglican chaplaincy. And in here, you will find some remarkable video if you want to click in at like minute marker 35 as to what the relationship is between the ACNA and the jurisdiction. It's remarkable. I don't want to comment on it or give you my commentary other than, hey, if you want to know, that would help you out. So just trying to protect myself. Well, what's going on? What's going on? Okay, let's back up. We have been here before. I remember attending a meeting that was hosted by Bishop Murdoch, and the College of Bishops was all up in his diocese. And Chuck Murphy was at this meeting. He got to the microphone, and he explained how joining the ACNA was a bridge too far. Said He says the EMEA is going to pull out of the ACNA. We just don't think it's right for our wonderful church planting organization to be under Archbishop Duncan and under in congruence with the ACNA. So they pulled out. I think it was more Chuck Murphy's idea than it was his bishop's, but his bishop followed him, and he was able to get the congregations and most of the priests to join him in leaving the ACNA, but that only lasted for a short while. The grass is always greener on the other side for a little short while, and all of a sudden, we kind of liked what we had in the ACNA. There was more of a purpose than just planting churches. There was more of a purpose because we still had the common enemy of 815. And so slowly, it took about a year, all the bishops, most of the priests, most of the churches rejoined the ACNA under Per USA and other dioceses. It took a while. The same is likely going to happen here. Over time, chaplains are going to say, wait a minute, if I stay with the jurisdiction, I have to pay my 10% tithe. If I go to an ACNA diocese and I'm endorsed by the ACNA, I get 10% raise. That's selfish Kevin saying, you get 10% raise. So I would say over the next year, you're going to see many chaplains migrate into the ACNA from this jurisdiction for many different reasons. My selfish reason would be the pay raise. So,
But we also need to keep in mind that this still has not resolved the issue of those wounded by this fight.
That's the biggest issue.
So, though the wheels of canonical justice may grind slowly, and this will all work itself out, as you say, Kevin, it may take up to a year or so. Mm-hmm. That doesn't address the fact that there are people in need today. And this is individual. I know of instances where individual bishops are offering personal pastoral support, but it needs to be more organized from the ACNA.
An official.
And my advice to them is step up. Don't worry about rights or wrongs from a legal perspective. Do the moral, godly thing and be a nation of Christ's love and hurting people's hearts, especially when these hurting people are clergy and their families of the jurisdiction.
Yeah. Strange times, George. Let's move on to something that we're less likely to be sued for talking about. The Stuart Ruch trial continues. Is that starting today or yesterday?
I think the 8th. I think it is today or tomorrow.
Okay, yeah. Whoa, what a trial! We've talking about this in many different episodes. Most recent news was the prosecutor and assistant prosecutor quit. They said things were done that were clearly outside the bounds of what should happen in a court trial, and walked away. We suggested, hey, maybe this enters into a mistrial area, and other people in the Archbishop's office and the Archbishop himself said, no, we're going to continue on. So here we are, George.
The difficulty we have here is that though with the best will in the world, participants in this process may think they're doing justice, the world sees this as a flawed and tainted enterprise. Mm-hmm. Bishop Jones, for instance, could very well seize upon this as an example of why he will not get justice from any presentment out of the College of Bishops. This has been badly handled. And at this point, my attitude is almost like, oh, so what? This is, I don't want to call it a show trial, but it's just, the ACNA needs to build trust and confidence, and by just bullying and bulldozing his way forward, and forget the criticisms, just get it done with, and then we can get back to other stuff. I'm sorry. You can get away with that crap at a parish. Maybe you can get away with it in a diocese, but you can't get away with it in an organization, because you're held up to standards, and when you violate those standards, you can't just ignore it and expect people not to think that think ill.
Yeah, well, we have arrived at a position where somebody has found loopholes in the current canons. We got an email about 2 months ago from Phil Ashey announcing that they have more detailed Title IV canons coming forth for the next College of Bishops to vote on. But here we are looking at what should be an easy trial to conduct, but in the eyes of Kevin, George, the ACNA II people, and so many victims of sexual predators around and inside and outside the ACNA, they're like, the ACNA II is like, well, we told you, there's not going to be any accountability. And I'm like, no, there'll be oh, come on. We've held 5 or 6 bishops accountable in the past 10 years. How hard could this one be? Well, apparently it's the most difficult thing we've ever tried, George. So,
well, it's I don't mean to be Debbie Downer, but it is discouraging.
It's very discouraging because it can be used as an example by people who, like George and I, criticize you once in a while. So it is what it is. The echo chamber known as Twitter, X, Facebook, somebody posted a video of my bishop ordaining his wife into the priesthood. And, well, we're going to have to talk about it, George. So, Bishop of the Mid-Atlantic.
It's not unprecedented. John Satamu did this with his wife, and Sami Azariah, the presiding bishop of the Church of Pakistan, moderator, did that with his wife. And John Guernsey, the predecessor to Chris Warner at the Mid-Atlantic, his wife Meg was ordained.
Yeah.
John Guernsey did not ordain his wife, to my knowledge. She had the great joy of being kicked out of the Episcopal Church as a member of the clergy when John was kicked out, and John Len went on to become bishop. There's no canonical prohibition of ordaining your wife, but I just think it looks bad. I just think it's crossing some lines here between vows you make in marriage, vows you make in your ordination. Just a mistake.
The optics, and especially now in August, September, October of 2025, do not present well. And my understanding of a bishop-priest relationship should not include marriage. That's Kevin's ignorant opinion.
From my perspective on a PR or news or communications, Diocese of the Mid-Atlantic is coming out of a fight over Incarnation Williamsburg, where the claims are that the bishop is bullying the congregation, bullied a vestry over the women's orders issue, where if there's any opposition, you're not allowed to pull out of the parish, move to another jurisdiction. You just have to take it and go on. That's the claim. And Bishop Warner disputes this, of course, but that's not what those former members of the vestry and I think. So there we are. To step into this and then ordain your wife opens you up to the charges. Well, of course, this is all about, salving your own conscience. And it doesn't help that there have been instances in the ACNA where a bishop's wife has led to the bishop basically being pulled out of office.
Let's not go there, but there are 4 that I can think of. 3, 4, yeah.
that the again, it's not unlawful, but I would say it's unwise. Perhaps you could have had another diocese do it up for you. You could have.
Sure. Yeah.
How many jurisdictions are there in that part of where you are, Kevin? C4SO, or somebody else could have done it. But to do it have your own wife, for you to have your wife declare canonical obedience to you, I'm sorry, it's.
Well, I'm going to, ironically or coincidentally, I'm going to see Bishop Warner in 2 weeks when he visits my church. So I'll introduce myself and say, hey, you guys need PR help. So it is what it is, George. Thank God it's story 4, not story 1 of this week. But now the question is, George, doesn't this just make the ACNA more woke? The echo chambers that I follow on the Twitter and the echo chambers I follow on Facebook says this is proof the ACNA is over. They've gone completely woke. And I'm like, I don't know that the balance is different. If Guernsey and his wife are both clerics and Warner and his wife are both clerics, the balance hasn't changed. The echo chamber has changed. It's louder. When you find somebody who's almost heretical or off pace or woke, you can certainly highlight them, and they show up all over Facebook and show up all over Twitter. But I don't see more characters than I saw before. I just see more pointing to different characters. I don't see more.
The saying something is over is like our saying the Church of England is over, the Anglican Communion is over with the Mullally thing. No, it'll trot on for years and years, but things don't come down with a major traumatic crash in this world. These institutions, they just peter out till they run out of money or people. Mm-hmm. No, the ACNA is not over. Far from it. No, it's not becoming woke. It's actually, you can say, because this discussion is taking place, the opposite is happening. Mm-hmm. That it is being held up, the cleansing light of sunshine is being held onto it so that the woke virus is disinfected. So you could make the opposite claim just as cogently, that it's non-woke. Again, remember, we're dealing with flawed, failed human beings. None of us is perfect. And until that's why the church needs to continually reform itself. Otherwise, it turns into a Church of England. It turns into an Episcopal Church, an ossified relic of what it once was. But no, I wouldn't despair.
No. Oh, goodness, no.
But if the Episcopal Church has managed to spend 50 years digging its own grave and still hasn't stopped digging.
No. But, and I've talked about this before, politics and church is a pendulum. Okay, it goes back and forth between conservative, liberal, orthodox, squishy. Here we are, and you're watching the very bottom of a pendulum going back and forth with the AC, and we have to hope it doesn't pick up speed. But this is the pendulum. We see it in politics right now. Some people don't realize that they may not hold office forever, but there's the political pendulum going on out there from left and right. So
I do believe in the second law of thermodynamics, that entropy, everything will come eventually to room temperature.
Yes.
And we're in the wilder swings, but it is all going to come down to room temperature at the end until we have a new crisis to keep us occupied.
Hopefully Jesus returns before that. I'm Kevin Kallsen.
And I'm George Conger, and you've been watching episode 935 of Anglican Unscripted.